If you're new to the world of Ouija boards, chances are that you're confused about what they are and how they work. These spiritual boards have been featured in horror films, urban legends, and have even become popular trends at different times in history. But what exactly is a Ouija board? Well, it's basically a tool used for communicating with the dead. This can be fun for some people, but others find it pretty scary, especially if they've never done it before. A Ouija board is a device used to communicate with spirits. It consists of a flat board with the letters of the alphabet printed on it. There are also numbers, punctuation marks, and words such as yes, no, and goodbye. 2 or more people place their fingertips on a small piece of wood called the planchette that slides around on top of the board's surface. The idea is that you can ask questions, and if there are spirits present, they will move your fingers and guide you through spelling out answers through your movements. Ouija boards are a form of divination. Divination is the act of predicting or discovering future events, and a Ouija board is a tool used to facilitate that process. The board was originally thought up by Elijah Bond and Charles Kennard in their quest to create an automatic writing device that would allow spirits to communicate with people on Earth. The first patent for a talking board was dated March 5, 1890. Over time, the Ouija became popular as a game between friends who wanted to scare each other with ghost stories while they made contact with spirits. However, it's important to remember that nobody knows who they will be communicating with when they use one of these devices, or what sort of entity might come through in response. The first step in using a Ouija board is to make sure you're in a safe environment. This means that there should be no distractions, and the environment should be both calm and quiet. You can't use your Ouija board if there are people around who will disturb your concentration, or if you feel like you are being distracted by anything else going on around you. When using a Ouija board at night, it's also important to have some sort of light source on hand. Candles work well for this purpose. They're often used during rituals involving spirits or magic because they emit an almost otherworldly glow that helps set the mood for communication with these otherworldly beings. You can also use candles as protection against dark spirits that might try to harm users of Ouijas during their sessions. But keep in mind that lighting them isn't enough to keep you out of harm's way. In addition to having candles handy while playing with a Ouija board, it's also best to practice with only spiritually cultivated friends who know how these things work. So make sure someone has prior experience before diving into something new. It's always best not to take any chances when dealing with high-stakes situations such as communicating with ghosts. The Ouija board can be a fun and exciting way to communicate with spirits, but it is important that you take precautions when operating the board. As far as we know, there have been no cases of people being harmed by using a Ouija board. You can talk to spirits, you can ask questions, and you might get answers. It is possible to get hurt or possessed by something that is, or is not a demon though. If you're worried about being harmed by this board, just remember the following. The board will not harm you unless you allow it to do so by using it recklessly, or with malicious intent. To use a Ouija board, you will need to find a quiet space. You will also want to have someone with you whom you trust. If you are on your own, it is best not to use a Ouija board at all. The person asking the questions should be seated with their legs crossed and hands placed lightly on top of each other on the planchette. The other person should be across from them, holding his or her hands over those of the first person so that both sets of fingers are resting flat and not gripping tightly. It's important to remember that the Ouija board is just a tool, and it can be used for good or evil. There are many theories about how this works, but one thing is clear. There are those who believe in it and those who don't. Just remember that if you do decide to give this ancient communication device a try, make sure all players in your group are mature enough to handle the responsibility and respect of using a paranormal device like this. For more great paranormal content, be sure to subscribe to our channel.